Hi everybody and welcome to your webinar. Great to see where people are dialing in from. If you haven't already, just put in where you are calling in from. And we are from all over the UK, from Glasgow to Northumberland to London to Derbyshire. So great to have you all here. I'm going to just share my screen with you all to get the webinar started. So just bear with me. So welcome everybody to Hunky Dory, a leader's guide to happy, healthy teams. It'd be really great if you could just mute yourself just while we go through. There may be some time to unmute as we go through, just so we don't get the background noise coming through. And we'll just, I think there's a few more people coming in, so we'll just give it a couple more minutes. And yeah, keep sharing away. How are people feeling today? Anyone got any nice plans for the weekend? We are on Friday after all. Oh, 5. Oh, yeah, Warwickshire, West sunny Sheffield. Oh, nice, it's sunny in Sheffield. It's not sunny. I'm in the Lake District and the sun has left us for now. So great. So yeah, anyone got any nice plans for the weekend? Anyone doing anything exciting? Or you just gently looking? Trying to get some Glastonbury tickets on Sunday. All right, well, Sarah, good luck with that. I'll put all my fingers crossed for you. I know it's quite challenging to get them. I'll get out in the Peak District. Brilliant, Valerie, that'd be lovely. Or cold water swimming. Good. We'll learn a bit about the benefits of that a little bit later in the webinar. Just not being shackled to the computer will be fun. Becky traveling to India. Amazing. Oh, that's super exciting. And Kirsty, well, you're doing better than me finishing your Christmas shopping. I've not even started. And I was in Glasgow, I was in Dundee yesterday, and they were putting the Christmas tree up in the hotel when I arrived. I was like, I don't think I'm quite ready for that much Christmas yet. Or going to see Gladiator 2. Yeah, I was thinking of doing that actually. Yeah. Oh, Gibraltar. Hi, I'm Andine from Gibraltar. That's exciting. Surviving with our 2 teeny tornadoes. Oh, fantastic. Hopefully they won't. Maybe they might have a calm period and not so tornado for you. Right, I think, how are we doing numbers? Oh, Chester Zoo. I haven't been there for ages. Hope you have a lovely time if you go. There's my Royal Gibraltar Police. Oh wow, great to have you here. What's is it sunny in Gibraltar, Michael? Let us know. Right, I think we will just get started now. I know there are probably some more people but are coming, but I'm aware of time, so we will get come. Oh no, what's no? Okay, right. So welcome to Hunky Dory, a leader's guide to happy, healthy teams. So what we're going to be looking at during this session, we are going to be looking at the signs of wellbeing indicators to help prevent burnout and cultivate high-performing teams, and look at some engagement techniques to support and boost morale to take back to your teams. So I hope to just give you a little bit more understanding about team wellbeing and things we can do to help create happy, healthy teams. So to start with, just going to go through this, and this is a fundamental for us. So at Laughology, we are a consultancy that uses psychology of laughter and humour within learning. And so understanding a little bit about our brains and how they work is really important as we go through this webinar. Now, our brains have 86 billion neurons. It's full of neurons, and there is a lot of information coming at us at any one time. But what our brains do is our brains actually they take actions, they take thoughts and our experiences, and they turn them into our feelings. And actually, a lot of our actions are driven by our feelings. So it's about becoming aware of what thoughts we have and how they help us and how they hinder us. And our thoughts are also based on our beliefs and our values, which we have built up through our experiences of life. So our values and beliefs might have been built through childhood. So, for example, anyone afraid of spiders, don't worry, I'm not going to show a spider slide. We sometimes do. I'm not going to do that today. But someone that maybe has a phobia of spiders, what might have happened is so my mum was scared of spiders when I was a child, and so I grew up with this fear of spiders. And so when I see spiders, I'm like, oh no, spiders, they're creepy and they crawl in their little scurrying legs, and so I would be like really scared of them. And then I would have a feeling of fear, and so I would have a response. And back then I used to kill them. But actually, as I became an adult, I realized that spiders aren't that scary, and I've become aware of where that fear came from, and that fear was passed on to me by my mum, bless her soul. But actually, I was able to challenge that fear, and so now when I see a spider, I don't have that fear. And actually, half the time I'll just let them. I'll catch them and let them out of my house. But 20 years ago, I would never have thought being able to do that. That's an example of how when we see something, we will have some thoughts around that, and that will create a feeling, and then that will drive our action. And the same thing happens within our teams. So our teams, about how they feel about work, if they come into work and they have positive experience, what they'll build is a positive belief system about work, and they'll have positive emotions, and hopefully that will drive positive actions. However, when we may be going through stress, or we may be having some conflict at work, that can maybe build some negative beliefs and thoughts about work. And so then we find that we're coming to work and already feel stressed before we've got there, and that can drive our actions. So it's just understanding a little bit about our brains and our beliefs, our thoughts, and how they can prompt feelings within us, and that can drive our actions. And I always talk about things that can help or hinder us, and we all have these things that help and hinder us. So it's just getting an understanding of what are those things that help us, and what are those things we can become more aware of how they hinder us and the impact of them. So just a bit of an introduction into sort of our brains and our thought processes. So I'm just going to go on now, and we're going to start thinking about teams. So it'd be great to hear from you if you just want to pop into the chat for me, what makes a healthy team? So if you think about a team that's doing really well, everyone's feeling positive, what's a healthy team? Share some of your thoughts and ideas in the chat. It'd be great to hear from you. Trust, yes, trust. Having trust, oh yes, trust is open communication, yeah. Be able to make a mistake and admit it without worry, yeah, fantastic. Honesty, support, diverse personalities, yes, I love that. A team that communicates well, supporting each other. Honesty, shared intentions and goals, psychological safety. Yeah, brilliant. You should be all running this webinar. You've got some great responses here. So yeah, some great stuff coming out there. So I think trust is absolutely fundamental when we think about relationships that we build with people. Being able to trust them, know that when they say they're going to do something, they're going to do it. Knowing that if you ask them to you share something with them and you don't want it to be shared, that they won't share that. And also I think it was 2013, Google did a research project into high performing teams and what makes high performing teams. And they did it across 180 of their teams within Google. And they found those 5 things about high performing teams, and that psychological safety was fundamental. So can I rely on my team members? Will they do what they say they will? Can I make a mistake? Or can I fail without being shamed or being made to feel embarrassed? Does everyone know their role and their purpose? Does everyone have that role and that sense of purpose? And do people know that there's the impact of their work, that their work is meaningful, that they have a positive impact? So to really align to what you're sort of all sharing there. And also about that diverse thought, there's a great book by Matthew Said called Rebel Ideas, and he talks about the power of collective intelligence and how when we have people with diverse life experience, it really helps us be stronger as teams, particularly when we're solving complex problems. It can sort of cover different blind spots that we have, and he talks about the CIA and 9/11 and how the team CIA were predominantly white middle class men, and somebody did highlight to them that actually I think there might be a problem with extreme Islam, but no one recognized that because they weren't from that background. And then when 9/11 happened, they realized, oh, we need to diversify the CIA because actually we don't there's lots of blind spots with us. So they actually actively went to diversify their organization. So some great thoughts there. Yes, Kelly, brilliant acceptance of the diversity. That's really important as well. Actually, and when we think about a healthy team, it's actually that we value everyone's differences and we accept people for who they are. And there's a sense of belonging. And it's not inclusion, it's belonging. It's where someone feels safe to be who they are. And we know that's really good in terms of people's well-being, that they can be who they are, and that sense of safety they get. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next slide now. Oops, we're flying ahead. And to look at sort of optimal performance and what is optimal performance. So down here, we've got the level of stress, and up here we have performance. And as we see, we have boredom, seeing improvement, and then optimal performance. And what we know from research is optimal performance is where people feel a level of stretch. So they are being challenged, but in a way that meets their skill set and their experience. So they feel that they are putting their skills and experience into use, but they are being pushed a little bit. They're in that growth zone. And that's where we know that we get that optimal performance. And that's really where we want to meet our teams. That's where we want to find our teams, is in that place of optimal performance, where they feel that there's almost like stress can be a good thing, but they feel that, yeah, I can do this, but it's also a little bit challenging, and that it's stretching me, and that I'm learning and I'm growing while I'm doing what I'm doing. And that's where we want people to be. As we can see down the side here, if people find their jobs maybe too easy, or they've maybe outgrown their role, if they're in that role for too long, we can find that they get bored. And that can be problematic in themselves. People can become disengaged when they're at that point. And sometimes people can become a bit disruptive when they're in that place, a bit rebellious, because actually they're disengaged and actually they need that challenge. So it's also, and I think we need to remember this bit is important, really important, as much as this bit to take aware of. And this is where people are maybe working too many hours, or their level of the role that they're doing, it's beyond their capability. And so they're feeling very stressed. They might be questioning themselves. They may not be feeling supported. And there's sometimes where maybe for a week to meet a deadline, you may be asking people to do a bit more than what they normally do. But what happens is, if they're in this for too long, what we find is that stress, that pressure becomes too much. And you may find people becoming stressed, and ultimately people become burnt out. And you could have a whole team that are burnt out, or one or two individuals. And this is obviously going to have a negative impact on the team and performance. And either side here, when people are bored or when they're burnt out, that's when we're potentially going to lose people from our organisation, or when people's well-being will be negatively affected. So really where we want to be keeping people in work is in a place of optimal performance. So where the level of challenge meets their capabilities and their skill. And actually, when we're in the optimal performance, that's when we're going to get our best out of our team. And that's also when we'll see like a team working really well together. And when they have optimal performance as well, that's where we find that they have a sense of purpose. Everyone knows what the goal that they're working towards. There's good communication and good morale. So that's where we want our teams to be. However, we know that things don't always happen like that, and teams can become stressed. And this might be a number of factors. It could be from in the workplace. It could be things going on outside of the workplace. So thinking about that, what do we think are signs that we might see in team members or teams that could signal signs that they're becoming stressed, or their well-being's not as good as it could be? What kind of things do you think you might see in team members? Share away in the chat again what things you might notice about a team that were becoming stressed, or team members that were becoming stressed. Any ideas? Really want to see some things come in. Tiredness, disengagement, quite increase in sickness, yep. Lack of motivation, changes in behaviour, absence, yep. shift in mood, definitely disengagement. Yeah, so a whole range of things. Changes, I mean, essentially it's about, oh, fractious, that's a good word, yeah. Keeping camera off on Zoom, body language. Yeah, all of these are great. So some, yeah, some really excessive working or procrastination. Yes, presenteeism, or yeah, all of a sudden testing limits. Yes. So yeah, a whole range of things that you're sharing there, and I will just share. So yeah, we've got some emojis here to nicely illustrate the things we might see. So personality change. So someone that's normally quite loud and quite positive also might become quite withdrawn and quite quiet. Someone might become more emotional. And when we say emotional, that might be they might become more tearful, but they could also become quite aggressive or a bit more angry. Sense of hopelessness or feeling overwhelmed, and that might play out in, you might be in a meeting talking about a new project and someone just is like, well, that's not going to work, or, why are we doing this, oh, there's no hope in doing this. Someone might be quick to lose their temper. Someone overtired, exhausted. Someone might be working lots, not eating, you might notice they're not eating properly, just never taking lunch breaks. Or sleeping a lot, maybe being late to work. So a whole range of factors, and there's a lot of individual difference in this. Everyone deals with things in different ways. So some people might become withdrawn and much quieter, but some people actually might become more manic and express their emotion a lot more outwardly. So it really does vary, but I think this is where it's really important that we get to know our teams and know the people within our team, so that then we can begin to spot, well, actually that doesn't seem quite like, they're not behaving quite like their normal self. Applying out of the job, yes, that's another one. So the consequences of this is we can see disengagement drop, and actually when just even one person in the team becoming stressed, that can have a negative impact on the rest of the team. Particularly there's someone that's maybe quite outwardly expressive, expressing their frustrations and anger, that can really begin to have a negative effect on the team. And so when we're stressed, I was talking about a bit about how we think. So our brains are very interesting things, and when we're stressed, our brain can kind of default a little bit into fight, flight, block, freeze. And so some certain things, and everyone generally will have a bit of a default setting. Some people might be more fight when they're stressed, or when they feel a sense of fear. Some people might be more flock, and some people might freeze. So some things to think about is when we're stressed, or we've experienced something a bit what we deem as traumatic, our brains can shut down a little bit. And actually we know that we struggle to learn new things when we're feeling like this. There's some examples of how this might come across. So if you've got a team member that might go into fight mode, they might become more argumentative, they might become a bit more disruptive, and they might be the person that when we suggest new ideas, they're already arguing around it, very challenging, and very much into that fight mode. And then we'll get people that go into flight, and that's very much sort of avoid. So they might, people that go into flight may withdraw and move away from the team and disengage. And then we get flock, and this is where people it's like group think. They want to find other people that think like them, and they become a sort of almost like a little clique. I'm working in an organisation, and we're going through a lot of change. It was like cultural change, and actually there was a group that really didn't want the cultural change to happen, and so they flocked together like a little team, and they were sort of anti-change and trying to get other people engaged with them. And this can be quite disruptive as well, because almost galvanizing people against what's going on. And then we've got freeze, people that don't ask for help, they just go quiet. So somebody that might go into freeze, what you'll find is they withdraw, and they won't necessarily speak to anybody, and really just try and deal with things on their own. So these are some behaviours that you might see within people when they become stressed. And as you can imagine, this can be quite disruptive for teams when these things happen. And reflecting on those behaviours, anyone recognise any in themselves of whether they are fight, flight, flock, freeze? And some people will have a couple, and depending on the situation, but I think it's really helpful to recognise where you might go when you're stressed. Anyone sort of recognise themselves? Freeze, Rebecca? Yeah. Great, thank you. And as a leader, it's really important to recognise your response when you get stressed, as that can affect the other people in your team as well. So freeze, flight. Okay, great. Some freeze mainly and some fight. Okay, brilliant. Great. Thanks everybody for sharing. So I'm going to go on to the next slide, and this is about our fast brain and our slow brain. So you may not be aware of this. We have sort of two systems running in our brain at any time. And basically, when we have our fast brain's actually really clever evolutionary. Our fast brain was that bit of our brain that when a saber-toothed tiger was coming running at us, we'd be like, quick, run, we need to save ourselves. Go on, everybody. So that fast brain, it doesn't really give us much chance to think. It's a very automatic, instinctive bit of our brain, and it's a very reactive bit of our brain. And we've got down there, what you see is all there is, so you'll just see what is in front of you. And that's the bit of our brain that really is about that gut instinct, that survival technique. And we've got to forgive our brains because it has a very strong purpose. That's the bit of our brain that will save us when we really need it. However, day to day, and when we are stressed and don't give ourselves time to think, this is a bit of our brain that can react. So this is the person, Steve Peters, talks about the human gorilla and computer, and this I kind of like this idea. So he talks about the fast brain would be the gorilla. So when you're driving in your car and someone comes and cuts you up, you're like, oh, what are you doing? So as it's got a purpose, it can also be quite destructive sometimes, that fast brain, if we don't recognise it. That's a bit of our brain. If someone says something and we're not quite sure about what they've said, that's a bit of our brain that we might snap. That's the bit of our brain where we might become argumentative and react rather than respond. And so the other bit of our brain we've got is this type 2. It's a slow rush. That's the one that's the considered, it's the focused, it's the one that's going to look at the data and make a more constructive decision. You'll take your time over the decision, actually, rather than just reacting to what's there. You can take a step back and see the bigger picture and go, hang on a minute. And so rather than thinking, oh, that person's just snapped at me, what's wrong with them? You might, when you're in that slow brain, you might go, oh, hang on a minute, actually, that person's just snapped at me. That's not really like him. Maybe there's something going on there. And so it's just really to be aware of these two systems that are working within us and how they play out for us, and actually what can happen in the workplace when we're very busy, we've got lots of projects ongoing, we've maybe done long hours. If you have a whole team that is in their fast brain, what you're going to have is a lot of people reacting to each other, and maybe not always in the most productive, helpful way. Whereas actually, if we give ourselves time as individuals and as teams to stop every now and again, just to slow our brains down and just to make more considered responses, we will make better decisions and actually interact better together. So it's just about thinking about that and how it shows up for us. So just seeing some of your comments there. Freeze or flight, depends on the situation, depending on circumstances. Fight, and freeze. Brilliant. So what can we do to help ourselves? We feel like we're being driven in that fast reactive brain. So what we always talk about is the power of pause. So just giving ourselves a moment to just stop and stop jumping to conclusions, just give our brain a bit of a time to catch up with itself. And so when you might be going into a meeting, whether you're going into a one-to-one, if you're going to need to make a tough decision, it can be really important just to, I always say to leaders, give yourself 5 minutes. If you're going to have an important conversation, if you're going to go spend some time with your team, if you're going into a meeting, give yourself 5 minutes and just check in. Where are you at? What's going on for you? Maybe go for a walk, and maybe just do some breathing, just to slow your brain down and get it back into that slow, rational place. Because we can very easily get into that place of running from one thing to another, and that's when we find we're more reactive as opposed to proactive in that slower brain. So just the power of pause, and this is really important when we're thinking about our teams. And the American Psychological Association, they found that team members that were listened to were 4.6 times more likely to feel empowered to do their best work. And also, if we're thinking about how we build those relationships with our team members and understanding who our team are, building those relationships is really important. And how do we do that? You all talked at the beginning about the importance of trust in in terms of a healthy team. So the power of making sure that we take time to listen. And here we've got 4 different types of listening. We've got listening to learn, listening to understand, listening to win, and listen to fix. And I'm sure you've probably all got examples, but I know sometimes when I just need to have a chat with somebody, or you can tell they just want to jump in with their opinion and tell you what they think, and you feel like, well, are you really listening, or are you just wanting to give your opinion to me? And then there's listening to fix, and that's where someone's just throwing solutions at you. And again, that may be helpful, but sometimes it may not be. And if we're thinking about someone who might be struggling with their well-being, actually, we probably need to listen to understand first. And again, thinking about that, our brain, we need our brain to be in that slow, logical place to listen to understand. And that's when we can step into that empathy, really kind of understand what's going on for that person. So when we're thinking about team well-being, and how we build that trust, it's about listening. Listening and trust is so fundamental, and really getting a picture of who somebody is, what's important to them, what are their motivations. So really being able to give yourself that space and that time as a leader to be able to listen to understand. And once we've understood, it may be that we maybe can ask some questions around helping them find solutions. And as I said, employees that feel listened to feel more empowered to do the best work that they possibly can. So what I'm going to go on to now is looking at some tools and things that we can use in terms of motivating our team members and bringing our team members together when they feel a bit stressed. So types of motivators. So you might have seen this slide before. So there's sort of theories that talk about, we have intrinsic motivators and extrinsic motivators. And interesting, what did people want to do when they were a kid? So when you were a kid, what did you want to do? Because what they say is when we're children, the outside world had less impact on us. So whatever we wanted to be as kids, very much came from that intrinsic place. Now, I wanted to be Minnie Mouse, so I don't quite know what that means. Didn't quite fulfill that one, but I'm okay with that now. But it'd be great. Anyone can remember what they wanted to be when they were a child? Feel free to pop it into the chat. And so the intrinsic motivators we have is about that's about things like learning. It's about that sense of meaning, that sense of purpose, and that's that sense of belonging. To see what, oh, Princess Leia, yes, yeah, I like that one. A pilot, ballet dancer, a fantastic, a vet. Great, brilliant. Thanks for sharing what you wanted to be. How many of you actually thought, oh, the Little Mermaid? Oh, I'm glad I wasn't the only one that wanted to be a cartoon character. Great, thank you. A nurse in the war. Right, well, that was very meaningful and purposeful, Patricia. I like that. I wanted to be a stripper and a lawyer. I'm not going to ask any other questions about that one. But yeah, great. Thank you, everyone, sharing. But do you know, that might be actually quite a fun question to ask your team members. What did you want to be when you grew up? So we have these intrinsic motivation, which very much comes from our sense of self. Yeah, so it's really helpful to get to know your team members and what are their intrinsic motivators, because actually they can come from our sense of values, and in the workplace it's really important that we feel in some way that those intrinsic motivators are being met in some way. So it brings you thinking about what the Google research project about that sense of meaning and purpose, and we're having a positive impact. And then we've got in terms of the workplace, the extrinsic motivators. So this can be, and what theorists argue around this is actually the extrinsic. These basic things need to be in place for people to have some level of job satisfaction. It doesn't necessarily mean they feel like it will be meaningful, but that they need these things for a basic level of satisfaction. And this is things like a good salary, a salary, money, company policy, like a workplace that feels safe and health and safety, having that level of actually I can grow, and there's also their failure, fear of punishment. That's a bit carrot and stick, and actually I think a lot of workplace trying to move past that. But it is about making sure that the basic needs of your work, your employees are being met. So that's their salary, that they've got a good workplace where they feel safe, they've got appropriate policies such as maternity pay and sick pay and the standard things that we expect in these days. And those things are just a minimum. And without them, people will be unsatisfied, but if they are in place, they'll be satisfied. And then we've got those intrinsic motivators where if they are being met, then people will feel very meaningful, they feel connected, and they feel that sense of purpose in what they do. So that's types of motivators, and thinking back to those listening skills, really understanding your team members and what motivates them. It's really important to make sure that we can recognise that and help them with their motivation. So I'm going to go on now to something that we call daily dose here at Larpology, and this is really fundamental to most things that we do, actually, and we talk about it as a team as well, and like how we get our daily dose. And thinking about that team connection, this is quite a nice thing to think about how we can do things as a team to build connection and promote our happiness. So the daily dose, so within all of us we have 4 neurotransmitters that help us, they help make us feel good. They're like happy hormones, if you like. And so their acronym is dose. So the first one begins with D. Any guesses of what D could be? And if you guess right, you can get a squeezy person sent to you as one of your prizes. So anyone guess what the happy neurotransmitter is that begins with D? Oh, yes. And Julie, you were the first, so you get a squeezy person. Dopamine is correct. And for the next prize, how do we get dopamine? Anyone want any guesses on how we get dopamine? How can we get that? How can we get some dopamine going in our bodies? Feedback. Yeah. Laughing. Yeah. Exercise. Yeah. So dopamine is our sort of reward hormone, if you like, happy hormone, if you like. So that's the one that anyone that likes making a to-do list and ticking it off, the reason you like doing that is because when you tick off that to-do list, you get a good hit of dopamine. Celebrating success. So this is a great one to do as a team, is actually when something goes well, get together as a team and let's celebrate that. And then you'll get a team hit of dopamine. So dopamine, and dopamine is also the one that when we're doom scrolling on Instagram, we get caught up in it because it provides all that dopamine. However, there are positive ways to get our dopamine and not so positive ways. So, thinking about for our team, getting making time to celebrate success together can be really great way to get some group dopamine going. Okay, so the next one we've got is oxytocin. Oh, I was meant to get you to guess that one. I've given that away. So how for a squeezy person, how can we get oxytocin? How do we get oxytocin? What do we need to do to get that? Oh, tyrosine amino acid. How can we get oxytocin? Connection. Dan, you get a squeezy person. Everyone who's I've told get a prize. Sex, yes, you can. I don't think I would recommend having sex in the office, though. HR might have an absolute meltdown if we did that. But yeah, oxytocin is our bonding hormone. So that is the one that that's the one that actually when women have babies, they get a dose of oxytocin. It helps them bond with the baby. We can, if you've got a cat or a dog, it's great petting that. A hug a day. Hug a day keeps the doctor away. Do ask for permission for a hug first, though. Again, we don't want HR having lots of issues. But oxytocin is our connection hormone. So actually, as a team, spending time chatting together and having meaningful connections together can help provide oxytocin. I was working somewhere yesterday, and they actually said that they're rather for their Christmas party, they're having an afternoon rave, an afternoon sober rave. I was like, brilliant! So spending time together, and then they can get some happy hormones from their dancing together. So yeah, how do you spend meaningful time together as a team? And so the next one we've got is S. What do we think the S hormone is for oh, serotonin. Bethany, you've got a squeezy person. Yeah, serotonin, fantastic. And how do we get serotonin? Any ideas how we might get serotonin? Any thoughts? Exercise? Yeah. Someone did mention it this morning, what they were doing at the weekend, actually. I just see if Prozac, yes. Cold water, yes, Cara, you get a squeezy person. Sunshine, good sleep, yeah, fantastic, everybody. So Serotonin, we can get this from cold water, dipping, from sunlight, from a bit of meditation. So again, thinking, so I was reading a stat that from the Wellbeing Report Centre that 82% of employees do not take a full lunch break. And we think about well-being, the impact of that. So actually encouraging people to go out on their lunch breaks, get a bit of sunlight, can be really helpful to get their serotonin. Even better, go for a walk and talk with your teammates, get some oxytocin and serotonin together. So serotonin, and actually serotonin's made in our gut. There's a lot more research coming through about serotonin being made on our gut, so the power of nutrition. So maybe a thought, trade out the buckets of chocolate and sweets and bring some healthy fruit in, help the production of serotonin in our guts. And then finally, the E. What is the E, do we think, of the endorphins? Yes, Julie, you're the first one. You get a squeezy, ma'am. Oh, I've just seen that, Patricia, in Gibraltar, it's lunchtime. We are connected, having lunch at our desk, but we are having fun. Great to hear. Brilliant. I love that. Thank you for sharing. So endorphins. Yeah, how do we get endorphins? How can we get endorphins? Any ideas? Adrenaline? Not some exercise. Yes. Patricia, you get a squeezy person. Laughing. Yes. Fantastic. So yeah, endorphins. I mean, they talk about runner's high. So going out running, you may think, I don't want to go for a run, I don't want to go for a run. And then you come back and go, oh, I feel so much better. That is because of the endorphins. Also, endorphins are our natural painkillers. So when we get those endorphins running, it can help reduce pain. And I've experienced this before, been out running, gone over my ankle and gone, it's fine. It's fine. And then about 4 hours later, I'm like, it's not so fine, actually. The endorphins have worn off. So dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins, these help us generate happiness within us, and they're free and they exist within us. So this is a great thing to do as a team, is start conversations. How do we get our daily dose? How do you get daily dose? Maybe have team meetings outdoors, maybe in the summer when it's a bit sunnier. I know organizations that do meditation in the workplace that will help with serotonin. Making time to connect and have good conversations for your oxytocin. So it's thinking about how can you and your teams get that daily dose. It allows you to connect together, build those bonds, build those memories, but also helps you with your well-being. So it's a win-win, and a great way just to starting a conversation, have fun with it. Oh, one team you coach, play Mahong together, is that right? Meditation. Fantastic, some great stuff. And maybe actually it'd be great to see if anybody does anything already. Do you as a team do anything to get your daily dose? Please feel free to share in the chat. And so I'm just going to move on from this, but really want you to just think about that daily dose and how you can get that as a team. I'm going to go on. So really it's about what we want to be doing as leaders, is thinking about the support we're offering to our teams and how we're creating those opportunities for connection within our teams, and changing our focus from the things that we can't do to changing the things and what we do influence, and getting your teams to focus on actually supporting their well-being, because we know that teams that are focused on well-being are more productive and do perform better. And just final thing I wanted to leave you with is about the power of laughter and humour in teams. I'm just going to see what you put. Okay, oh brilliant. So that's great, Emma. You work alone, but you create opportunities with other sole traders. Oh, Patricia, like that. Decorate the office during Halloween, Christmas and breakfast. Oh, that's a nice thing to do. Walking one-to-one. We play handbells together at the start of our staff meeting. That sounds like fun. I want to come join that staff meeting. Brilliant. Thanks for sharing your things that you do to get daily dose. So I just want to talk for a minute about laughter and humour, because we are Laughology. And again, there's lots of research about the power of laughter and humour. And there was a study of more than 50 teams, and they found that where the presence of humour existed within the teams, it predicted better communication, higher team performance, and the better morale over time. And also what we know is laughter reduces stress, can improve our immune system. And yeah, it's a way to get your endorphins and your serotonin and your dopamine. So it's a win-win. How can we find more laughter and humour in our workplace? How can we connect more? And also with laughter and humour, we know that can help us change our perspective on something. So let's say we failed at something and a project's not gone to plan. We can sit there and go, oh no, that was really bad. Or we can go, oh, let's just have a bit of a laugh about how that went. And there's numerous times when I've been working in a session and something's not quite gone to plan, and I'll be like, oh, or I'll say something. I remember once running a team session and we were talking about personality profiles, and I was like, my profile is and I was in a room. I was like, I'm just definitely a starter, not a finisher. And then someone with a rather dirty mind started laughing and going, "You're a starter, Louise, not a finisher." And I was like mortified at what I said, but then we all laughed about it, and we carried on, and it broke the ice. And so, being able to laugh at ourselves and laugh at our mistakes, and thinking about that sense of belonging and building that sense of trust, and being able to make mistakes. And learning from them, laughter and humour can be really fundamental to that. So I'm going to share an image just to sort of highlight that. So what do people see? What do people see here in this image? Share in the chat, what do you see? What do we think this is? Any guesses? A duck, a bird, a cat, a duck and cat, bird, bunny, yep, bird. Animal with a party hat on. Yeah, I like that. A creepy duck. A cat in an oil. Oh, that's the first one I've had that one. A cat in an oil spill. Yeah. So a mucky white cat. Maybe a cat that's been in the oil spill. So it's really interesting, isn't it? Everyone sees different things. So it could be a duck. It could be a cat. It could be a rabbit. Someone's also said it could be a dinosaur. There's many different things in which something from Julia Dawson. Hey, yeah, interesting. And there's so many different ways, but everyone will see it from a different perspective. Everyone sees it different. But what humour does is it adjusts our thinking and really encourages us to see things from a different perspective. And so that's the power of humour. And as a team, finding ways to laugh together, have fun together can really help build those connections. And thinking back to that first slide about our thoughts and how our feelings and actions, the more we spend a positive time together as a team, we will build those positive connections. So actually when we think about our teammates and we think about the workplace, we have positive feelings of like, oh, I'm going to work, oh, I wonder what so and so did, how their wild swimming went at the weekend. I wonder what how that project's going. Actually, oh, we had such a laugh in the last team meeting. I'm looking forward to the next one and how we are connecting. So humour is really powerful tool for connection, and we know that teams that laugh together do perform better together. So I'm really so yeah, cat or a bird, or a cat in an oil slick. So just thinking about what we've just gone through, and I'm aware it was a bit of a fly-by-night of well-being and team connection. So we talked about what makes a healthy team, a lot about trust and belonging, and that psychological safety. And then we looked at sort of that performance in terms of stretch. So it's where that level of experience and skill meets a level of capability. We talked about the signs of maybe why we might spot somebody that might be going through burnout from being withdrawn, from being angry and aggressive, from avoiding people. We talked about our fast brain and our slow brain, the different types of motivators, what we want it to be when we grew up, the power of daily dose, and the power of humour to connect us. So if there's one thing that you're going to take away from this session, feel free to pop it in the chat. It'd be really great to hear from you. And then finally, I'm Louisa from Laughology. We are all about making your workplace happy. We've got a QR code there if you want to share your feedback, because we love feedback. And if you like this webinar and you would like to come to another one, we do have another one in it's in the beginning of December, 6th of December, and that's called It's Only Banter, a very topical issue. We like to have a laugh as teams and have fun together, but exploring banter and when banter is okay and when it's not. So I believe that you will get an email with a survey, and if you complete that survey, you will then get the link for that next webinar. So thank you very much. Keep a focus. So Rachel, you put keep a focus every day, not just in meetings and months. I like the daily dose acronym, brilliant. And what else we've got? Acknowledge why someone could be reacting in a way. Don't take it personally. Yes, ask them if they are not, they are okay. Get bigger doses. Yes, Kerry, love that. Get your bigger doses. What do you want to be when you grow up? Yes, yeah, great conversation starter, and actually that will bring some laughter. And comparing whether people have got that now. Implement daily dose. Thank you. Right, thank you everybody, and maybe go out and get a walk, get some daily dose straight after this. Thank you very much for being here, and hopefully we'll see you all soon at some point.